Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly.
Jacket Sports Weekly, where you can find everything Waynesburg University sports. Tune in every week to our panel as they take a deep dive into Waynesburg sports. We cover everything from football.
Turning around is Isaac Trout. Did he get the feet down? We will wait for the mark. And they call it a touchdown.
To basketball.
Ball. Got it! We're all tied up!
To softball.
Max this one. Left field. Kiss it goodbye!
Stay up to date with all your favorite Waynesburg University sports with us at Jacket Sports Weekly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Lepiscopo back here for another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. And it's not just me, it's the same guy. My good friend, Seth Adams, joining me up here. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Gonna talk about some sports every week like we do every Monday. Every Monday we're here in the studio and we're talking about sports.
It's great.
It's great.
Who wants to watch anything other than Waynesburg Athletics?
Why aren't you just watching this?
I mean, there's other great shows. The Buzz. Shout out to Seth. He produces that one. Anyways, let's get into wrestling. All right, so they had the John Suma Invitational, finished 9th out of 13 teams. We didn't see Colby Morris wrestle, but we saw a couple other guys have some success here.
Yeah, Jesse Orban, man. He had a first round bye, all right? He lost 15-0 in the first match. It was not a great one, but then he battled back in the other bracket, winning 11-0 in the next one he played, 10-4 in a decision win over the guy that he lost to 15-0. He came back, won kind of like a monumental win, won 11-4 in the next one, and then had to forfeit in the fourth round due to a medical reasoning. So a great day for Jesse Orban and Hammett, who had also a very successful day.
I think it's definitely something to look at. They finished above Teal. Teal was also at this Invitational, so maybe that's a little bit of extra motivation. You know, PAC championships coming up in just a handful of days, but they will next be in action versus Muskingum here at the Rudy Mercer Fieldhouse. That will be Saturday, February 10th. Now moving away from the wrestling mats and heading over to the hardwoods, talking about hoops. We got women's basketball. Last time we were on, they suffered 2 losses since. They lost to Geneva and Allegheny. Seth, both some pretty big losses there.
Yeah, I say we more talk about the Allegheny game, which was just this Saturday. No Jules Moorbacher.
It's always going to be a big hit.
Yeah, and I feel like it showed. But you know, 28-27 half. I was directing the game for our Woosen. I was pumped up. I was like, let's go. This has been a really exciting game. We're making shots from the three-point line. And then that third quarter hits. And we got outscored 30-9 in that third quarter.
Yeah.
That's just that's unacceptable. I mean, Mia Hankins had 15 points. She is Athlete of the Week as well, so props to her. She's in comm, so props to her for that. But the team also had 26 turnovers.
Yeah, just neither of those games were good games, but especially that Allegheny game. It's funny, I talked to Sam Jones like a few weeks ago when they had the Worcester game, and he said, you know, I'm petitioning to the PAC for us to play 2 fourth quarters in a joking way. I was like, well, I mean, the third quarter has been pretty bad, and that Allegheny game, I mean, we'll talk more with Ethan Spazarski, but 30-9, that's going to make you lose the game, quite honestly. But they'll next be in action. We have another Woosen production against Grove City, and then they'll head to Chatham up in Pittsburgh this upcoming Saturday. Next, men's basketball. They split their last 2 games since we've been on, lost to Geneva and picked up a win over Allegheny, and it's been quite some time since they beat the Gators.
Oh, yeah. 1987-88 season was the last time that we beat Allegheny. Now, they joined the PAC last year. Last year, they've played 4 games since the one on Saturday. They lost every single one of them. But they go, big playoff implications are very important here as well. But they get the win over Allegheny, 73-64. Baker had a 30-point game, which is his career high. So props to Baker, who is also Athlete of the Week. So, I mean, he's just doing generational things, man.
Yeah, Anton Baker across those 2 games averaged 26 points. 8.5 rebounds. Oh no, I got more for you. 3.5 blocks and 3 steals.
Leads the PAC in blocks.
In those 2 games. The dude has been playing out of this world. And Spencer Ferteri, we'll talk a little bit more about not only Anton Baker, but also just the entire Waynesburg University men's basketball team. They have Grove City and Chatham coming up as well. They will complete the second game of those double headers at home and on the road. And finally, our other winter athletic going on right now is women's and men's indoor track and field. They just had their Bob Shannon Invitational at Denison University. Seth, break us down a little bit about the women's team.
Yeah, Tanksley and Reef Snyder, they took top 2 spots in the 5,000 meter run with times of 2018 and 2019, respectively, around those times. Rebecca Miller finished 7th in shot put with a 10.69 meter throw. And Megan Berry, our producer, had a throw of 8.89 meters in the shot put and a 3.44 meter jump in the long jump.
And then on the men's side of things, the DMR team, we talked about the women's side of that just last week. Now the men have went ahead and they have completed a new school record by 12 seconds. They beat the 6-year-old record. It was Quentin Weaver, Kyle Casella, Aaron Sanders, and Andrew Casper. They had a great day, not game. They don't play games. They run.
They run.
They run. And wrestlers, Seth?
They wrestle.
They wrestle. All right. But they had a great day. Casper as well. He set the program record for the 3,000 meter run. So great day for the men's side. They finished 7th out of 9 teams. And the women's side, they tied for 8th out of 10 teams. But that's going to do it for our opening segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly. When we come back, we'll sit down with Michael McKenzie to talk about the wrestling team.
Have you ever wondered what the life of a Yellow Jacket newspaper looks like? Why don't we show you? Straight from the printing press to our editor's desk into the newsstands, you can pick up your own copy of the Yellow Jacket newspaper in Buell Hall, the Stover Campus Center, or any of our other newsstand locations on campus. When you get your very own copy, you can read it at your own leisure anywhere around Waynesburg. You can kill time waiting for your next class to start by reading up on campus news and our op-ed pieces. You can even take your copy to the Beehive and catch up with friends as you read up on the latest regional stories. Looking for a peaceful place to read now? Head on over to the Everly Library. Sit back, relax, and catch up on the latest in Waynesburg sports. Oh, and if you didn't know, we are also digital at theyellowjacket.org.
Welcome back here on Jacket Sports Weekly. The first segment, as I alluded to, is about the Waynesburg University wrestling team, and who else but to help us do it but Michael McKenzie, sir.
It's Mike.
Great to have you back. How are you doing?
It's great to be back on here. You know, took a week off, took a week hiatus to gather the thoughts, but we're back here on wrestling.
Well, I'm glad you are back. We're here to talk about the John Suma Invitational. We had a couple guys go out there, have great days, talk about those stars of the match, the match at the Invitational.
Yeah, so a number of wrestlers finished with some wins. 3 wrestlers ended up placing on the top 10 of their respective weight classes. First one being Jesse Orban in the 184-pound weight class. He finished 4th. Went 2-1 in the matches he participated in. He lost that first match, won a couple in the consolation bracket, got himself into the placement match, 3rd place. Unfortunately, had to medically forfeit that game, but still finished 4th place in the 184-pound weight class. Cole Hammond, another freshman that has really been a standout this season for Waynesburg. He finished 6th in the 149-pound weight class. Started out with a couple of wins, including a pin. He lost his 3rd match, got into the consolation, then won a couple more matches to get into the 5th place match in the 149-pound weight class. Unfortunately lost that one, but still placed 6th. And then Jacob Wilson, another freshman in the 184-pound weight class. He finished 7th place there. He had 1 pin victory during his day, and the 7th place finish match was one of 2 wins he got on the day on medical forfeits. There's 4 other wrestlers that picked up a pair of wins. 3 other wrestlers that picked up wins on the day. Aiden Bischoff in the 197-pound weight class got a couple of wins in the consolation bracket via tech fall and pin. Jarvis Thomas, another freshman in the 157-pound weight class, picked up a pair of wins in the consolation bracket, both via tech falls. And then Seth Evans in the 157-pound weight class. We love Seth Evans. Picked up a hard-fought win in the 157-pound weight class bracket with a 4-3.
There we go. We got it.
I got it out eventually. We got it out eventually. But obviously one of the big storylines was Colby Morris not participating in the match. Hopefully he can get healthy and get ready to go for Muskingum and then the PAC championships.
Yeah, so they finished 9th out of these 13 teams wrestling in this game. But it seems worse on paper than it does because of the amount of success that some of these guys have had, like Jesse Orban and Hammett. So is it really that bad that they finished 9th out of the 13th?
I wouldn't say so. Obviously, it's better to finish above last than last. They didn't finish 13 out of 13. They finished above 4 other teams at the John Suma Invitational. But really, at this point in the season, it hasn't been, for a team at least, a successful season for the wrestling team. At this point, heading into PAC championships, you're kind of looking for the individual results, everybody to stay healthy, but to see individual improvement, especially from a roster that has a lot of freshmen and sophomores competing. A couple of freshmen in Hammett and Orban have really been the standouts this season. Wilson, another freshman, Bischoff, a freshman, Thomas, a freshman, Evans, a junior. All those guys are coming back next year, so to see them have a little bit of individual success, that's the encouraging thing, and finishing 9th out of 13 teams. I feel like that finish seems a little worse than the day was for Waynesburg.
And you mentioned the guy that everybody knows, Colby Morris, did not wrestle at this Invitational. Should it be anything for the fans to look out for that, Colby Morris did not wrestle? He wrestled at Teal, then you have this Invitational. He doesn't partake in it. Is that any worthy of raising an eyebrow that PAC Championship's coming up in 10 days?
I wouldn't. I don't know if it's one that you raise the eyebrow and you really put this DNP for Morris under the microscope. I think that if he doesn't participate against Muskingum, maybe that's something you look at heading into PAC championships. Obviously, that's the one you're looking for. You're hoping he can get healthy for the PAC championships at Washington and Jefferson on February 16th. I wouldn't raise the eyebrow a lot at this one. Maybe if he doesn't participate in the duel against Muskingum this coming Saturday, then you raise the eyebrow, then you look at it, you start wondering if he's going to participate in the PAC championships, which would be a huge loss if he's not able to finish out his senior season at the last, day wrestling for Waynesburg.
So you talked about it, the PAC championships coming up in a couple of weeks, maybe give or take a week or two. So what can we look forward to in this PAC championship? Maybe some highlight players. I know we mentioned a lot of them already, but who do you think are really going to have a deep run into the PAC championship?
I think the 3 guys we've talked about for the majority of the season. If Colby Morris participates, obviously you're looking for him to maybe pick up the win, finish first place in the 174-pound weight class. But then you're looking at the 2 freshmen we've been talking about at length, Cole Hammett, Jesse Horban. Maybe those guys can potentially get a top 3 finish, maybe win in their respective weight classes. We'll see how they do. But you're looking for those 3 guys to get some high place finishes, and then maybe some other guys like an Aiden Bischoff or a Jarvis Thomas to get placement finishes, get onto the podium, and you never know. It's more so individual results. We want to see these freshmen and these sophomores, these younger guys, these guys that are coming back next season, to place, to finish, and finish highly. And who knows what can happen if you can get a first place finish from Morris, and maybe Hammett or Orban win their respective weight classes. And from there, we'll see where it goes in terms of team placement for Waynesburg. But you're looking for the individuals and the younger guys to get onto the podium and place at the PAC championships.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. Even though you were gone for a week.
I missed you, Mike.
Thanks for coming.
I miss you guys too.
Thanks,
I missed
Mike.
you guys too, if it makes you feel any better.
Thanks, Mike. Well, don't go anywhere, though, because we're going to be seeing Ethan Spazarski here to talk about some women's hoops.
Welcome to the Eberly Library, where you can find out everything about anything on campus. Through the double doors, you'll enter a world of knowledge and academic resources. These include the Knox Learning Center, where the Disability Services Office and testing centers are located, and the Writing Center, where students can work directly with our tutors in order to hone their essay skills and get easy A's. And now, to the Print Collection, which houses over 75,000 books spanning across all 3 of our floors. And if you're looking for truly a peaceful place to read, we also have the Stover Center for Constitutional Studies, with various nooks and crannies for students to hide away in with a good book. And if you need us to print out something for your next class, head on to the 3rd floor at the Eberly Library.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. You know the drill. Make a move. Take a hook shot. It's Ethan Spazarski. We're going to be talking about women's basketball. Thanks for joining the show, Ethan.
You know what? Thank you for having me, guys.
Of
I
course.
really appreciate that.
Of course. Women's basketball has not been a very successful two games since we've been on the show. So just give a little bit of a breakdown of those 2.
Yeah, for women's hoops, it has obviously, as we mentioned, not been ideal. However, we should take time to mention the Allegheny. And then that first half was something we have not seen in a while. 30-point second quarter. Very impressive by the women. They very much kept up with Allegheny in that first half, too. It was really nice to see. They were struggling in the first half. If you look at the numbers here for Allegheny, 6 for 20 in the first quarter, 5 for 25 for their field goals. Waynesburg, second quarter, 37% from the floor. They were 6 of 16. However, the third quarter bug struck again. Shooting 18.75%, if we want to be decimal mathematical. But nonetheless, the women really were able to keep up with them in the first half, and just a lousy third quarter really kept them behind. But I've said it once, I'll say it again. There is light shining here in this dark moment, because this team is moving very much in the right direction from the beginning of the season to now, and last season to now. There's definite progress for this team. Don't let any of this fool you. I mean, the overall record 4-17 and conference record of 3-13 don't show that. But again, if you follow along and you see, last year only winning 2 games, both in one game in conference, that really does show you there is progress being made.
And you talk about the young bright spots on this team. One of those was not there for that Allegheny game, and it was Jules Moorbacher. We've talked about her multiple times as being an up-and-coming player on this team, being one of the more dominant paint players along with Kayla Howard. How big of an impact do you think it was on this team to not have her against Allegheny?
Well, I said it on during a halftime show when they were playing Washington and Jefferson. You just give Jules the paintbrush, because when she's in the paint, she does great things. She really is very effective underneath the hoop. But without her there, it's hard, because she's one of the taller girls on the team, and Allegheny has a lot of tall women on that team as well. They are very good at rebounding. Almost all their offensive rebounds went in their favor to start. So not having Jules there it stunk, but at the same time, it showed you have to find ways to adapt. But Jules is, she's averaging 7.5 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game. She's shooting 46% from the floor. So when you lose that, you're definitely losing a certain aspect from your game that you're not going to be familiar with, because she started in 16 games and appeared in 18. And so, it's going to affect everything, and definitely the chemistry with everything. But she was eager to play too. We were talking to her before the game. Spencer Ferteri and myself caught up with her. You could tell. We were talking about everything, and she was like, yeah, you could tell. She just wanted to be on the court, helping her teammates out, being involved. But having her definitely is not favoring Waynesburg, but I'm sure she's going to do everything she can to get back out there and get ready with her girls.
And a key light that we did see was Mia Hankins, who scored 15 points in that game. She is Athlete of the Week. We said in the pregame earlier, which is Logan and I, so congrats to her once again. But 15 points, we've been missing the 3-ball, Ethan, and it showed that Mia has that capability of doing that. So how impactful was that for the team that, maybe the outcome wasn't what they wanted, but we've seen the potential of the 3-ball.
Exactly. Mia Hankins, all of her shots, 5 of 10 from the floor, those all came from outside the arc. And she hit a 3 in a row at one point. She was on a roll, and you could hear it in the Rudy. People were really behind it. And I was too, as a PA announcer for that game. I just kept saying her name. It was awesome to be able to say, and she was just hitting all her shots, and it's nice to see it continue to carry. Obviously, her freshman year, she leads the team in minutes. That itself is remarkable. She's averaging 25.6 minutes per game. Although the shooting percentage at 30% for both field goal and outside the arc is, you definitely like to see that go up. But she's been very effective from outside the 3. She has arguably been one of their best, if not best, 3-point shooter there. So to see it carry over there was awesome, especially as just being a friend of all these players too. To see them succeed is what you want to see. But as an athlete and in this game, she was without a doubt a factor of why Waynesburg was able to contest in that first half.
And let's look forward for this team. You have Grove City coming up, the team tied for 7th in the women's standings, and then you have Chatham coming up next Saturday. What do the ladies have to do to avoid that big quarter that they just let up their opponent to outscore them by 10, 15 points and maybe pull off an upset here late in the season?
Adjustments. Allegheny made an adjustment. They shot a lot of threes in the first half. And then that second half, they only shot a total, if my numbers are correct, they only shot 5 threes. So Allegheny made the adjustments. Waynesburg needs to follow up and make their adjustments as well. I think Allegheny made the right adjustments. Waynesburg maybe lost a step, wasn't ready. I'm sure when you're really hot and on that roll, taking a 15-minute break does not go in your favor. As an athlete, a former athlete myself, I understand what that's like. However, something worth noting, after this upcoming game they have against Grove City on Wednesday, the women's last 3 games, fun fact, they're 2-1 against the remaining teams this season. They did lose to Chatham, but they beat Franciscan and Teal this year. So the second half of the year, again, making those adjustments, being a better team than you were in the first half, really capitalizing on that. They definitely can. And the Chatham game was very close. It was a 58-49 loss, but don't let those 9 points fool you. It was very close for most of that game. If they can just consistently make the adjustments and follow up, I really do think this women's team could win most, if not all, of their games the rest of the year.
And I was just about to ask you that. What do you think that this team can do to have a successful end of the season? Or how would you like the season to end for the Lady Jackets? How would you like to see them play the rest of the season?
Well, in a perfect world, I would love nothing more than to go 5-0 in the last 5 games. That would be fantastic, and they all deserve it. They are definitely one of the harder working groups that we see, because we have whenever we go to set up for our sports network productions in the morning, we see the teams practicing, and you can tell it's there. Just want to see them succeed, and especially, as I mentioned before, as friends, is for them as well. It's something you like, but I mean, it's we've said it before. It's the 1 quarter situation. There's always just that 1 quarter that throws them off. If they can capitalize on that, they really find themselves in all these games. And you could tell they're definitely more aggressive with the ball too. I like that. I mean, they're fighting for the ball, getting under the hoop, trying to open up different situations. It's just, you've solved that 1 bad quarter. I really think things open up for this women's team. And I mean, especially only having a very small senior class helps too, because that means a lot of these women are going to be coming back and being on the same team next year, so they continue to build off everything. I really think that's going to work for them in their favor.
Well, Ethan, thank you very much for joining us up here. We got one more segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly, and we've got to talk men's hoops with Spencer Fratteri. They'll be coming up next here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Hey, how you doing? Excited to be here. Hey, how's your week been?
It's been okay.
Oh, nice. Hope everything else outside of basketball is good.
Welcome back for our final segment here on Jacket Sports Weekly. It wouldn't be right but to end things off with Spencer Fratteri here on the men's side of hoops action, alley-oop action. How you doing today?
Pretty good, and I just want to note that this is not the Woosen
not a Woosen polo, ladies and gentlemen.
I just picked this out last night 2 hours before I went to bed because I was not going to get caught lacking. So new shirt, pink shirt. We're here, fellas.
Seth, what do you think?
It's good salmonish color. I like it.
You know what? I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, now let's get into the men's basketball side of things. They had 2 games, Geneva, Allegheny. They split the 2 games, a loss to Geneva, a win over Allegheny. Let's talk about Geneva just quickly. It was simple, easy. The reason they lost, those 3-pointers from Geneva.
Yeah, Geneva's a team that, like we talk about all the time when we're not on TV, they live and die by the 3, and they didn't die that game. They were 13 for 31. When you're able to get 31 3 balls off and still win by 10, I mean, it's just pretty much the story of the game. There's not a lot you can do against a team who can shoot threes that well. It's like the 2016-2017 Warriors. That team was almost unstoppable. There's not much you can do against teams who can shoot the 3 ball that well. Waynesburg did their best job in the second half of trying to come back. Baker had 22. He tried to lead some sort of comeback. It fell short by 10, but again, there's not much you can do when a team's shooting that well.
All right, we talked about doom and gloom, whatever, Geneva. Okay, it's over. Now let's talk about Allegheny, all right? Huge playoff implications in this game. Kind of not a must-win game, but a very important game to win. They win 73-64. Talk about that performance from Baker.
No, so I think you're right. I think it was a must-win because, to be honest, if you lose that game, a lot of things are different. Now, Waynesburg won, and they hold the 4 spot, which is good for us. We're happy for that. And I will say, my 4 years of being here, I think this is the most excited I've ever been for men's basketball for Waynesburg. We talk about them every day. We get to talk about how close they are to the playoffs, how badly we all want the home playoff game for both the production side, the announcers, everything that would come with it. It'd be a great atmosphere. But it's a big game. You lose to Geneva, which isn't terrible, but you've got to come back and get that home Allegheny game because you lost to them somehow the first time at their place. I mean, they're the worst team in the conference. We should have swept them this year. We didn't, but nonetheless, Anton comes in, says, you know what, today's my day, drops a career-high 30 points. I know Logan had the call of it. It was a great call, but you get the 30-point game from Anton. Jordan McLeod showed up with 17, and then you get a nice, strong double-double of 12 and 14 from Jalen Davis. So it was an all-around nice team win.
And Anton Baker, you mentioned Mia Hankins and Anton Baker game, Waynesburg Athletes of the Week. Let me just read you Anton Baker's numbers from these 2 games. 34.5 minutes average between these 2 games, 63.5 field goal percentage, 8.5 rebounds, 26 points, 3.5 blocks, 3 steals. Now, what if I told you he did not win PAC Player of the Week with those numbers right there?
Logan, you're going to get me thrown off because, listen, I promised Meg no ranting, but
Let's just keep it short. It's not a question, just thoughts.
It's just like how? And it's not the case of this guy got it last week. We saw Trevor Tipton, who was a dog in the PAC, get it 3 or 4 times a week. How in the world do you not give it to him? It doesn't make sense to me, and I will sit here for the rest of the week until we get to see whose next week is, and we'll think and wonder how he didn't get it.
All right. You good?
Trying to keep it short. Okay. I'd like to
Short,
stay on.
sweet, and to the point.
All right. Let's get back to some questions.
Okay. I like it. I love that.
So, even though we've had a very successful season, that's a successful season, right? We still had some bumps in the road, some inconsistency, like a loss against Geneva, and then coming and being Allegheny. So, what can they do to limit this inconsistency and get wins in a row?
Well, I think just when they figure out how to come together as a team and not just one guy, which they've done before, but then they go back and they don't do that. Like, for instance, the St. Vincent game, Jalen Davis, Anton Baker, everyone, the guards, they all played well. But then you go to the Geneva game, which, again, no discredit, Geneva is a fantastic team, but that first half, it looked like a one-man show from every time someone got the ball. Anton tried to be one-man show, which it worked out in the beginning, but then Corey Witcham got the ball. Jordan McLeod. All these guys were trying to be one-man shows, and then in the second half, they switched to more of a team play, and they almost made the comeback. And then against Allegheny, you come back and you play as a team the whole game. And I think that's the best that team has looked all year was against that Allegheny team. And it also stinks because you're just dropping games you shouldn't have. We should have swept Westminster. We should have swept Allegheny.
W&J.
St. Vincent, you probably should have won that first one. The WJ, they have a slow start in the first half. They could have swept them. There was just a lot of losses that I'm sure they're still mentally thinking about that they should have picked up, and I'm sure that's taking a toll on them.
And as you mentioned earlier, we currently are locked in at the number 4 spot. I won't say we because we're not on the team, but Waynesburg University's men's basketball team, number 4 spot behind Geneva, St. Vincent, Chatham. It's still a race for that home spot, though, because you have Westminster, that's just a half game behind. You have Bethany, you have Grove City, they're about a game and a half out. How can Waynesburg in these final games, you have Grove City, you have Chatham, you have, Teal to finish off the season. How can they round out with more than just, 2-3 wins?
Well, guys, I have crunched the numbers. I have absolutely crunched the numbers to the absolute max.
All right, let's hear
them. I
them.
said like that. You've got to at least go 2-2. You've got to find a way to at least win 2. You're allowed to drop 2. Ideally, Waynesburg would like to go 3-1. You're allowed to lose to Chatham. But again, they would obviously love to go 4-0. But you have at the end of the day, you've got Grove on Wednesday, Chatham Saturday, then next Wednesday you got Franciscan, and then the last home game, last regular season game of the season, you have Teal. You have to at least go 2-2, and I think if they go in 2-2, that they should be able to secure the home playoff spot, but you would like to play it safe and go 3-1. They already beat Grove. There's your first win. They already beat Franciscan. There's your second win. And they should have beat Teal the first time. If they can beat them at home with the Marissa Mob behind them, that's your third win. And then you're allowed to drop that Chatham game. Chatham is a tough team. They're creeping up on that second spot that St. Vincent has held, so we could see a switch there. But crunching the numbers, you've got to at least win 2 of the last 4 games.
Now let's go back to one of the players. Jordan McLeod, all right? He dropped 17 in Allegheny. And he's had some pretty good games over the last couple of games, but he's been inconsistent at times. But recently it seems like he's been doing better. So just give me your thoughts on him as a whole, and has he been getting that more consistent vibe that you've been looking for the whole year?
For the whole year, no, but it's the potential is there. We've seen it throughout games. We saw it against Allegheny. He had a great first half. We saw it against McDaniels, and I think arguably his best game was that first game against W&J. He was literally doing everything. Step back threes, corner threes. He was driving the lane, hitting reverse layups. He was doing everything, and I think he's going to be what Nijon Kirkman was 2 years ago. He's going to be a key piece in that playoff run. Let's say they make the playoffs, they get the home playoff game. You get a home game, then you obviously go away. You play 2 more after that. You play a total of 2 or 3 games in the playoffs, depending on their scenario. Jordan McLeod will be the key piece on how well he plays in that playoff run, on how deep that team goes, because you're either going to get your 20, 17, 25 a night from him, or you're going to get his nights where he's inconsistent, the confidence isn't there, he's only scoring 5 points, and that's the Jordan McLeod that we need to hopefully not see the rest of the season. We like the Allegheny, McDaniels, W&J Jordan McLeod.
Well, Spencer, thank you very much for coming on and not doing too much ranting here on Jacket Sports Week. It's always a pleasure to have you on, but that's going to do it for this episode here of JSW. Make sure you come back every week for another episode of Jacket Sports Weekly.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.